proceed?
Yes.
Stuff it. These are the words uttered by a man to his employer, which ultimately led to that man's firing. Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, this is a case about an insubordinate employee and a company that had no other choice but to let that insubordinate employee go. Welcome, my name is Bayoji, and I am proud to represent Columbia Brewsters Incorporated. Columbia Brewsters Incorporated is a homegrown company right here in Darrow County, employing about 85 of our very own citizens in this county. Not only is it a homegrown company, but this company is also a family-run business, a company that has existed from generation upon generation. It was first started by Michael Caine. And when Michael Caine founded the company, a brewing company, he became president of that company. And after he passes, he gives it to his son, John Caine Sr. And John Caine Sr. does the same thing. After he passes, it's then bequeathed to John Caine Jr. The reason why this homegrown, family-run business is here in this courtroom today is because it stands accused of age discrimination. It's your job, the jurors, to determine whether or not that accusation is true. And you're going to get an opportunity to hear from the plaintiff's witnesses, and you're also going to get an opportunity to hear from our very own witnesses. And by the time you hear from all of these witnesses, you're going to come to see the full picture of what actually occurred in this company. A picture of an insubordinate employee. To understand how that insubordinate employee came to being fired, it starts with knowing the story of John Caine Jr. and how he came up as the present CEO of the company today. You see, John Caine Sr., the father who has passed, recognizes that his son needs to understand the business first before running the business. And so he tells his son to go and work at the company at the age of 16. And so John Caine Jr. is at the company doing odd jobs, sweeping, cleaning, picking up objects. But as any 16-year-old that you know, he wasn't the most responsible employee at that time. In fact, he was kind of lazy. And the plaintiff, Ted Jarvis Jr., noticed that a lot. And rightfully so, Ted Jarvis Jr. would tell John Caine Sr. or John Caine Jr. to pick up his slack and call them out every time, making them even do harder tasks. But you see, John Caine Jr. didn't stay 16 forever. He grew up, became more mature. He went to college, and even during college, in the summer years, he would come back and work. And after he got his undergrad and moved on to obtaining his master's, he then became the vice president of the company and stayed in that position until his father passed, moving up to president. Ted Jarvis never left or forgot that image of John Caine Jr. at 16. He held on to the image of an irresponsible young child who wasn't doing the work he was supposed to, and struggled with taking direction from the management under the helm of John Caine Jr. You're going to hear from John Caine Jr.'s general manager, James Garland, who will testify to that fact. James Garland will tell you today that when Ted Jarvis, the plaintiff, would receive instructions on how to do certain tasks, that Ted Jarvis had a difficult time taking those instructions seriously. And the president took note of that and made sure that it reflected in his bonus, his Christmas bonus on December of 2004. And so the plaintiff confronts the president and asks the president why was his bonus cut. And the conversation got heated. The plaintiff, Ted Jarvis, proceeds to curse out John Caine Jr., tell John Caine Jr. you are not half the man as your father, your grandfather was, and then slams the door shut as he walks out. And so naturally, the president lost some trust for this particular employee. Months later, there was a big task at hand, a construction job. that was originally slated for the plaintiff, Ted Jarvis, to take care of. But because of this souring of trust, that task was given to James Garland, the general manager. And the plaintiff, once again, couldn't take that. And so when an important meeting was held on February 12, 2005, Ted Jarvis, who received a notice the day before to be at that meeting, chooses not to. And that's when the company decides they had enough with this insubordinate employee. And that's when the company lets him go. This is a story that you're not going to hear not only from the president, but you're also going to hear this story corroborated by other witnesses as well. Rachel Smith, the secretary, who overheard that cursing from the plaintiff and saw when the plaintiff refuses to go to the meeting. She will testify to that. James Garland can also corroborate the story. But in fact, perhaps the most important witness in this case today that you're going to hear from is the plaintiff himself, Ted Jarvis Jr. Ted Jarvis Jr. is going to have to look at you guys, the jurors, and admit to the fact that in January 6th of 2005, he cursed out his boss. He's going to have to admit to you that not only did he curse out his boss, but he looked his boss in the eye and said, "You are not half the man as your father and grandfather were." He'll have to admit to you that he then goes to his coworkers and tells his coworkers about how he cursed out their boss. He's also going to have to admit to you that he looks into the eyes of his supervisor who was about to reprimand him and says, "Stuff it," and walks off. He's going to have to admit to you that 5 weeks later, when his supervisor was trying to get a hold of him, he avoided the calls of his supervisor. Not once, not twice, not even 3 times. 4 separate occasions that he avoid the request to meet his supervisor. And when his supervisor shows up to the warehouse to talk to him, he avoids him and doesn't even follow up. It took the supervisor having to come to Ted Jarvis to get a hold of Ted Jarvis. He is going to have to admit to that today. And he will also corroborate the fact that on February 12th of 2005, he skipped that important meeting that he knew he was supposed to be at. Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, when you hear from all of these witnesses, the picture is going to be painted very clearly. It's going to be a picture of a man who possesses the attitude that says to his employer, "Stuff it." When you're asked to consider whether or not the defendant in this case, the Brewster's company, is liable for age discrimination, keep that in mind. The answer is very clear at the end of this case, and it's going to be no. Find in favor for the defendant. Thank you.